Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're out here in the shop. Well, who am I kidding? We're always out here in the shop.
Yes.
Anyway, today we're gonna work on the station wagon. You see it's out there running because in usual fashion, it leaks.
How neat is that?
And leaks. And leaks. Can't park it anywhere.
That's pretty neat.
Anyway, the radiator's leaking, so we have a new radiator. And I believe the intake gaskets are leaking oil, so new upper, lower intake gaskets. So we're gonna pull it in from out there where it's warming up. And we're going to do all that. Hooray. I swear, sometimes it's gonna be something fun. So as you see, right there it's dripping coolant, right there it's dripping coolant. So we get under the hood. The radiator is leaking up in this front corner. Doesn't pick up on the camera, but there is steam coming up here. There's oil running down the engine here. Pretty sure it's lower intake gaskets. So that's why we're gonna take those apart. So our first step will be grab a drain pan and drain the cooling system. Now that I let it get nice and warm. It's okay, right? Where is the drain plug? Don't remember. You know, on second thought, maybe we will just take that lower coolant hose off. Lower coolant hose is down there. And then we got to take this bracket loose for the dog bone mount, the plastic holder, dicky hoo, and the fan out, and then we can get the radiator out. It's the lower coolant hose, upper coolant hose, and then there's two transcooler lines on this side. And we're going to take all that apart, assuming what we got is right. Got my cool flashlight. Oh, this would have been better if it wouldn't have leaked. Ooh, that's warm. Yeah. Oh, it's almost like you just had it running. Weird. Weird. The other thing you want to do is mostly miss the drain pan. See here? Got the lower hose loose. Some of it got into the drain pan. Now we'll take this upper clamp loose, get the upper hose off, and the transcooler lines are underneath it. Some 10mm bolts, I believe, to hold the fan on. I think I'm going to take the fan all the way out. I think I'm just going to do that because then I can just flop her forward, drop everything. Should be careful, I don't want to scratch the paint of the car. You know, for all I know, this radiator is original to the car. Tis warm. Tis warm. Alright, what size are the cooler lines? Oh hey, that cooler line is still leaking, even with a couple clamps on it. That's cool. 13. Sure. I would be very surprised if I could hold on to that wrench. Be very surprised if these were metric, since this is a 1985. I guess stranger things have happened. I think the 80s were the time where all the domestic manufacturers were half SAE, half metric, just to make your life extra fun. Maybe they were getting together with all the tool manufacturers and how they could get everybody's money You have to have two sets of tools to work on any of this crap. Is it spinning or is it breaking? I don't know. Loose. Oh yes. Spill transmission fluid everywhere. Oh, don't forget the bleed line. And now, hopefully, it just slides out. Like that. So it was leaking right up in this corner. Maybe I hit it right there when I was taking the old engine out. Alright, let's see if the new one right there is the right one. Never mind the coolant leaking out there. And this way, it's great. Oh, razor blade. Razor blade. Cut it open along this end. Well, looks the same-ish. It's got the connections for the transcooler. Upper outlet seems pretty small, that's good. Lower outlet seems okay. So we'll slide it in here and see what happens. Seems to fit. Well, for my next trick, I'll get these transcooler lines to go back on. There we go. There's the lower one. There's the upper one. Now we gotta put this cover back on. This thing actually holds it in place. Man, all my bolt holes line up and everything. This radiator was a whopping $72 shipped on eBay. Guess I can't complain since it fits. Seems to be the correct part. It's always a bonus. Bolt the fan back on. Coolant hose. I guess that is the same size as what the other one was. Upper hose is on, lower hose next. This thing down in place. Start the bolts. I am bleeding. So that was a successful repair. I just gotta do the intake gaskets before I put coolant in it. That would probably be the smart way to go about it. So to do that, we're gonna take the plug wires off that go to the back 3 cylinders, fuel lines, intake tube, upper radiator hose at that end. Then the wiring harness will kind of unhook and flop out of the way, at least the front part of it. I think the back part we can just unplug and push out. Then we can take the fuel rail and injectors off, and then supercharger, and then lower intake. Would have been nicer if this would have just worked the first time. So let's start tearing that stuff apart. 6, 4, 2. Trick here is remember how I did all my wires. Put it back that way when we're done. Love to take as little of this apart as possible. Wiring. All right, now we gotta take the supercharger pulley loose. I think this is a 15. Indeed it is. Take that off of there. Now, we are going to take the fuel rail off. There's 4 10mm nuts, and I want to just take this off and kind of flip it over this way, so I'm not taking fuel lines loose and all that. Never mind, there's 3 because there's not one in that spot. Three. And then we got to take this thing off. Now, it should just pop up like that. Plan is take it, just kind of flip her over here like that. Out of the way enough. Should be okay. Now, upper radiator hose, throttle cable, intake tube, we can unbolt the supercharger and lift it off. All right, let's see what we got under here. Oh God, that's heavy. Here, we have the lower intake. Definitely leaking oil. As you can see here, we have a bunch of bolts along the edge, 2 on those ends, 2 on this end, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the middle. And then there's a coolant elbow right here, which when I did this, I did aluminum ones. So I should be able to reuse that with no issue. So we'll get this unbolted and off and see if we can figure out what in the world is leaking so much oil. Maybe we'll try to reuse this gasket if I don't break it. Three-eighths. See, when I did this, I didn't put any new thread sealer on these bolts. So is that where it's leaking from? Possibly. Get what you pay for. I didn't pay much for myself. I think we are going to clean these bolts up and put some thread sealer on them when we go back together, just to make sure. Now this should be loose, and it is. That is hot. It's leaking oil right out the sides here. Over here my RTV is not even attached. The intake gaskets look okay. It's definitely leaking oil. Holy cow, look at this. How'd that get in there? Weird. Extra bolt. At least that was rubbing on a push rod. That's great. Alright, well, I don't know why this was leaking oil, unless I didn't have enough RTV on the ends. I don't know. I guess we'll put it together with the new lower gaskets since I have the kit. Clean all this up. Well, there was paint on this from when I painted the engine. I wonder if that's what caused a poor seal of the RTV. God bless it. This nice clean rag. Now, does anybody use these? I know the thoughts on those. Everybody says not to use them because it'll leak. But guess what I'm gonna do? Just upset you guys. God, maybe I just didn't have enough RTV in there. Okay. New news. Got some RTV. That stuff in the corners. Like so. So I didn't want you to fall in there, but apparently you're gonna anyway. Let's just double this up here. We'll do that. Yeah, I know I shouldn't use these. But it leaked before anyway. Maybe it can leak another time and I can do this all over again. Sounds like fun. I know a bunch of you are screaming at your device right now. And I get it. Oh, I don't like this. All right, let's keep going. I'm doing it. Boy. If I'm complaining about this leaking again, you guys remember to remind me of this. All right, let me find some thread locker for the bolts. Well, not thread locker, thread sealant. All right, got it on there. So this is what I did not do last time. By did not do, I mean use any sort of sealant on these threads, and they look like they had it. I know when I did the water pump, those bolts had it. So this time I'm gonna make sure that I put it on there. Last one. Couldn't hurt, right? All right, now we're gonna tighten this down with the proper torque. Click, 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 click. And before any of you get mad at me about my proper torquing technique, let's remember when I took this engine apart before I put it in the car, it had a cracked piston skirt. Somebody's been all through it. I don't really care. We're just seeing at this point how long it goes. Just think of this as like a science experiment and a little bit of an example of what not to do. I'm sure it'll be fine. Now, I just got to put the supercharger back on here. And to continue on with my proper techniques, I'm going to reuse that lower gasket, upper gasket, supercharger gasket. It's fine. It's fine. It's got 15 miles on it. It's fine. It's heavy. Oh, that's okay. Let's try again. Perfect. And here, you also want to make sure you adhere to the proper torque spec. Click, click. Can't see. Click. 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 Extension time. All right. So now it's just a matter of upper radiator hose, intake, injector harness, fuel rail, you know, belt, plug wires, back together. So I'll be back with you when that's done. All right, it's back together. Coolant's full, it's burped. Just got to start it. We'll let it come up to temp. We'll hope that fixed the oil leak. Sure, it made a difference. And then, yeah, I want to see if it communicates, and we should be good. Alright, it's running. Let it come up to temp and we'll check in. Well, alright. It's cleaned off. It's back in the shop. I heat cycled it, took it around the neighborhood. I don't see any oil leaking, and I don't see any coolant leaking, and the coolant's full. I cleaned up the floor, and yes, I have everything packed in here. No, there's not any room for anything else. So, yeah. Success? We'll see. I tried to scan it. It wouldn't communicate. I have no power at the OBD connector. I'll mess with that another day. Actually, we're going to be doing some wiring stuff on this car because I did buy a full digital dash for it out of like a STE 6000. So we're going to be wiring that in. When I do that, I'll figure out why the OBD connector has no power. But that'll do it for this video of the 6000 yet again. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, we have a lot more crap to work on. I always talk about that, so hang out, stay a while. You can watch me fumble through all of this leaky 80s garbage that I so dearly love. Yeah, that's that. Thanks. See you later.